The night was colder than usual, the air of the alien city heavy with smoke and fear. The market square was alive, but not with joy. It was alive with whispers, cruel laughter, and the clinking of chains. Slaves stood in a long line, their eyes empty, their bodies weak, and in the middle of them was a young alien mother, holding tightly to her small daughter. The mother's eyes were wide, full of terror. She kept whispering to her child, "Stay close, don't cry, please don't cry." But the little girl was trembling, her small hands clutching her mother's clothes. She was only 5 years old, too young to understand why these creatures were shouting numbers, too young to understand why chains held her wrists. On the platform, a thick alien auctioneer raised his voice, his sharp teeth shining under the torchlight. "Look here, a strong female and a little one, both together rare, rare indeed. Who will start the bidding?" The crowd roared. Some shouted numbers, others shouted cruel jokes. The mother pressed her daughter to her chest as if her arms could protect her from the world. Then suddenly, the guards pulled at the child, tearing her away. The little girl screamed, "Mama!" Her voice cut through the noise. The mother fell to her knees, grabbing the guard's leg. "Please, she's only 5. Take me instead, please, not her." Her desperate cry made even some in the crowd go silent, but the guard only kicked her away, laughing. The auctioneer smirked. "The girl alone is worth more. She is small, perfect for training or experiments." His words chilled the mother's blood. She crawled forward, tears falling from her eyes. "No, I beg you, take me, I will serve, I will do anything, but not her." The crowd began laughing again, some clapping, some mocking. One alien shouted, "Look at her beg, like an animal." The mother's heart broke, but she did not stop. She threw herself at the guard's feet, clutching his boots, her voice shaking. "She's my life, please. Let her go." The guard raised his weapon, ready to strike her down. The little girl screamed louder, fighting in his arms, her small fists hitting against his chest. And in that moment, from the back of the crowd, a voice spoke, calm, but heavy. "Let her go." The crowd turned, shocked. It was not another alien voice, it was deeper, sharper, and strange in this place. A human stood there, tall, broad-shouldered, his face partly hidden under the shadow of his hood, his eyes fixed on the mother and child. The guard frowned. "What did you say, human?" He spat the word like poison, but the man did not move. He repeated slowly, each word cutting through the air. "Let her go." The auctioneer laughed. "A human? Here? Do you even know where you stand, little man? This is not your world, this is alien law." The crowd cheered, but there was unease too. No human dared to step into this place, no human dared to interfere, and yet this one had. The human walked forward, steady, unafraid. The guards raised their weapons, but he did not stop. His boots hit the cold stone ground, echoing in the silence. When he reached the platform, he looked directly at the mother, her eyes wide with confusion and hope. Then he looked at the child still struggling in the guard's arms. "They belong to me now," he said firmly. The crowd gasped, laughter broke out again, but not as strong as before. Whispers spread. "Is he mad? A human claiming them? He'll be killed. Why risk his life for slaves?" The guard snarled, pulling the girl tighter. "And what makes you think you can claim them, human?" The man stepped closer, his voice like steel. "Because I said so, and if you touch them again, you will regret it." The mother stared, unable to understand. Why was this stranger defending her? Why was he risking his life for a woman and her child he did not even know? Her tears fell harder, not from fear now, but from something she thought she had lost long ago. Hope, the little girl, still crying, turned her face toward the human, her small voice whispering, "Protect her." The auctioneer's smile faded, his laughter gone. He studied the human with narrowed eyes. Something about him felt dangerous, not just in his words, but in the way he stood, calm in the middle of so much hate. The cold night grew colder, the tension heavy. The guards circled, the mother held her breath, and the human did not move. The square, once full of cruel laughter, was now quiet, waiting for the next strike. No one knew what would happen next, but one thing was certain. This night was no longer just an auction, It was the beginning of something no one in that city had expected. The square was frozen in silence, all eyes fixed on the human who dared to speak. The torches hissed in the cold air, and the smell of smoke and sweat pressed down on everyone. The alien guards shifted uneasily. Their sharp weapons pointed toward him, but he did not flinch. The mother clutched her daughter tighter, her breath short, her heart beating so fast it hurt. This stranger had just put himself between her child and death. She wanted to shout at him to run, to leave them, but her voice was trapped in her throat. The auctioneer broke the silence with a mocking laugh. "You must be lost, human. This is no place for you. No one interferes with our trade, not even your kind." His teeth glimmered in the light as he leaned forward. "Leave now, before you end up in chains too." But the man only took another step forward, his hood slipping back slightly, revealing sharp eyes that burned like steel. His voice was low but carried across the crowd. "I said they belong to me now, both of them." The crowd gasped again. The word belong was dangerous here because in this city it meant ownership. It meant law. A claim like that could not be ignored. If someone challenged it, there had to be blood. One of the guards snarled, pushing the little girl forward by her collar. "This child is property of the market. She cannot be yours, and neither can the mother, unless you can pay." His grip tightened cruelly. The child whimpered. The mother reached for her but was shoved back. The human's jaw clenched. He did not raise his voice, but his words struck harder than any weapon. "I already paid." The crowd roared with laughter. Some shouted, "Paid with what? His foolish mouth?" Others jeered, "Humans have nothing. He's bluffing." But there was unease. The man's calmness unsettled them. The auctioneer sneered, "Do you even understand? The price, human? The girl alone is worth more than your life, the mother. Well, she is hardly worth anything, but still, rules are rules. If you want them, you pay." The human stepped closer to the platform, his boots echoing. "My price is simple," he said, his eyes never leaving the guard who held the girl. "I give you your lives in exchange for theirs." The words struck the air like thunder. The guard stiffened. The auctioneer's smile vanished. The crowd fell into a heavy silence. They were used to slaves begging, used to cruelty, but not this. Not a human threatening them in their own market. The guard holding the girl spat on the ground. "You dare?" he barked. "Do you know what happens to those who threaten us here? You'll be cut down and fed to the beasts." He raised his spear to strike, but before it could fall, the human moved. It was fast, too fast. His hand shot forward, gripping the shaft of the spear, twisting it from the guard's claws. The sound of cracking wood echoed, and in one smooth motion, he snapped it in half, the broken tip clattering to the stones. The crowd gasped. The mother covered her mouth. The little girl's eyes grew wide. The guard stumbled back, his face pale. The human dropped the broken pieces at the guard's feet, his voice calm as ever. "That was your warning. The next time you raise a weapon against them, you won't get it back." The air in the square turned heavy. Whispers spread like fire. "He's insane. He'll be killed. No human fights the market." But there was fear, too. The guards had numbers, but this man, he had something they didn't understand. The mother's chest rose and fell quickly, her hands shaking. She looked at him, confused, amazed. Why, she thought, why risk everything for us? But his face gave nothing away, only his eyes, and they told her one thing: he was not leaving without them. The auctioneer slammed his staff against the platform. "Enough. If you want to claim them human, then by law, you must fight for them. Fight and win or die with them." The crowd roared in approval now. They loved blood, they loved battles. A fight would entertain them. Chants began to rise. "Fight, fight, fight." The mother held her daughter close, whispering, "Don't look, don't watch." But the little girl kept her gaze fixed on the man, her small voice trembling. "Protect her." The human lifted his head, his hood falling completely now. The light revealed his scarred face, not of weakness, but of survival. He looked at the mother, then the child, and gave the smallest nod as if to promise. He would not fail. He turned back to the auctioneer, his voice strong, steady. "Then let it be your law, I will fight." The square erupted. Cheers, shouts, stomps of feet. But under it all, a new tension ran. Something in the way the human stood, unshaken, made even the bravest guards uneasy. The mother could not breathe. She clung to her daughter, her heart torn between hope and terror. This man was willing to fight an army for them, and she could not understand why. The human, though, did not care for the crowd, did not care for the laughter. He cared only for the promise he had made. He would stand and he would not fall. The night was no longer just about trade, no longer just about slaves. It was about one man, one mother, one child, and a stand that could change everything. The market square was shaking with noise, chants echoing, guards surrounding the platform. But the human's calm face never changed. He had already agreed to fight. Yet instead of preparing for some duel, he moved fast, faster than anyone expected. In one sharp motion, he grabbed the arm of the guard holding the little girl, twisting it until the alien screamed. The girl slipped free, stumbling into her mother's arms. The crowd gasped, shocked that he dared to act so boldly. The mother held, her daughter close, her eyes wide. "Run!" the human shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. Without thinking, the mother obeyed. She clutched the child and ran toward the alleys at the edge of the square, her feet slipping on the cold stones, her heart pounding. Behind her, she could hear the clash of weapons, shouts and screams. The human was fighting, keeping the guards from reaching them. The girl cried into her shoulder, "Mama, what about him?" But the mother could only whisper, "He told us to run, we must listen." Tears ran down her face as she forced her legs to move faster. Behind them, the human was like a storm. One guard swung at him with a spear, but he ducked low, punching hard into the alien's chest. The guard collapsed, gasping. Another came from behind, but the human grabbed his cloak, spinning him into the others. The crowd screamed in excitement, never having seen such defiance. Finally, the human broke through the circle, sprinting after the mother and child. The guards cursed, giving chase, their heavy boots thundering through the narrow streets. The city was a maze of sharp alleys, broken walls, and flickering lights. The mother stumbled, clutching her daughter tightly, her breath short. "This way," the human shouted, pulling them into a side street. They ran past closed stalls, broken crates, and shadowed figures who hid from the guards. The child looked back and saw torches moving quickly. The guards were close, their alien voices filled the air with rage. The mother almost tripped, but the human grabbed her arm, steadying her. "Don't stop," he said, his voice calm even as his chest rose and fell heavily. Her legs burned, her lungs ached, but she kept going. Because if she stopped, if she slowed, her daughter would be taken. The guards split into groups, some climbing to rooftops, others closing the exits. One shouted, "Trap them in the old quarter." The human glanced at the mother. "We need a place to hide." She shook her head quickly. "There's nowhere. They know every street. They know every corner." But he only gave a small smile. "Then we'll use what they don't know." The mother frowned, not understanding, but he pulled them into a dark passage, narrow and foul-smelling. The walls damp with moisture, rats scattering under their feet. The child whimpered, "It's dark, Mama." The human crouched, his hand on her small shoulder. "Dark is good, little one. Dark keeps us safe." The sound of boots grew louder, closer. Torches lit the streets outside. Shadows stretched across the walls. Voices shouted orders. The mother pressed her daughter against her chest, her eyes shut tight, her whole body trembling. "They'll find us. They'll kill us," she whispered. The human crouched beside them, his hand resting gently on her shoulder, his voice low, steady. "Listen, to me, they won't touch you, not while I breathe." The words sank into her heart, strange and impossible, yet she believed them. For the first time in years, she believed someone. Suddenly, a torchlight flickered across the entrance of the passage. A guard shouted, "Over here!" The human stood, his eyes sharp, his fists clenched. The mother gasped, ready to shield her daughter, but the man stepped forward, blocking the way. The first guard entered, his blade raised. The human struck first, a sharp kick that sent the weapon flying. His fist followed, slamming into the alien's jaw. The guard crumpled. Two more pushed in, but the space was narrow. They could not move freely. The human used it, slamming one against the wall, the other into the floor. Their weapons clattered loudly. The mother stared, frozen. She had never seen such strength, such precision. Every move he made was fast, purposeful, Not wild like a slave's desperate fight, but controlled, deadly. The child whispered again, "Protect her." The last guard tried to crawl away, but the human grabbed his collar, pulling him close, his voice like iron. "Tell your master they're mine now, and if anyone comes again, they won't leave alive." Then he released him, letting the terrified alien stumble away. The mother could hardly breathe. She pressed her daughter's face into her chest, shielding her from the sight, her own eyes wide with disbelief. Why? Why would a human do this for us? The human wiped blood from his hand, turning back to them. "We can't stay here," he said. "They'll come with more, and next time it won't be just a few." The mother nodded weakly, her legs shaking. "Where will we go?" He looked at her, his gaze steady. "Somewhere they won't think to look." And so, with the night pressing down on them, torches still burning in the distance, and the sound of alien horns echoing through the streets, the three of them vanished deeper into the shadows of the city. The chase was not over. It had only just begun. The night dragged on, colder and darker with every step. The mother's feet felt like stone. Her arms ached from carrying her little girl, but she did not dare stop. Behind them, the sound of horns had faded. Yet the fear stayed, always whispering in her mind. The human led the way, moving with purpose, his eyes sharp in the shadows. He seemed to know where to go, as if the twisting alleys and broken streets of the alien city were nothing new to him. The mother wondered silently. How can he walk here like he belongs? Finally, after what felt like hours, he stopped before an old building, half broken, its door hanging on rusted hinges. He pushed it open with his shoulder, the sound creaking loudly, then motioned for them to enter. The mother hesitated, clutching her daughter. "This place," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Safe," he said simply, stepping inside first, his shadow stretching against the cracked walls. The inside smelled of dust and age. Wooden crates lay scattered, broken furniture piled in corners. Moonlight slipped through holes in the roof. The human checked each corner carefully, his hands brushing over the old walls. When he was sure they were alone, he nodded. "You can rest here," he said, his voice calm, steady. The mother lowered her daughter onto a wooden crate. The little girl curled up quickly, exhaustion pulling her toward sleep, her small eyes blinking. Heavily, she leaned into her mother's lap, whispering, "Mama, warm?" The mother's heart broke. She had nothing to give, no blanket, no fire, only her arms. She wrapped them around the girl tightly, tears slipping from her eyes. Then, to her shock, the human pulled something from his pack. A small piece of cloth, worn but clean. He laid it over the child. "Better than nothing," he murmured. The mother stared at him, stunned. Why do you help us?" she asked, her voice shaking. He looked at her for a long moment, his face unreadable. Then he turned away, sitting against the wall. "Because no one else would," he said softly. The words hit her harder than she expected. No one else would. Yes, that was true. In her world, no one cared for the weak, no one cared for slaves, but this human, he did. For a while, silence filled the room, only the faint sound of the little girl's breathing, soft and steady. The mother stroked her daughter's hair, her mind spinning. Finally, she whispered again, "You don't know what you've done. They will come, they will hunt you, and they won't stop." He leaned his head back against the wall, closing his eyes. "Let them come," he said, his tone calm, almost careless. She stared at him, anger and fear twisting inside her. "You don't understand. They will torture you, they will kill you slowly, and because of us, because of me." His eyes opened, sharp, cutting into her words. "Because of them," he corrected firmly, nodding toward her sleeping child. "Don't blame yourself for their cruelty." The mother fell silent, her throat tight, her eyes burning with tears she could no longer hold back. She turned her face away, ashamed of her weakness, yet also shaken by the strength in his words. Minutes turned to hours, the cold of the night deepening. She shivered, her body trembling. The human noticed, and without a word, he shifted his cloak, placing it across her shoulders. She froze, her hands clutching the fabric. "Why?" she whispered again, softer this time. He gave no answer, only a small glance, then looked away, as if his silence was answer enough. The little girl stirred in her sleep, whispering a word, half dreaming. Protector. The human's eyes softened for a moment. Though his face stayed calm, he turned his gaze toward the cracked window, watching the night. The mother looked at him secretly, her heart filled with questions she dared not ask. Who was he? What was his story? Why did he care? She felt a strange warmth inside, mixed with fear. Suddenly, a sound outside broke the silence. Heavy boots, distant but steady. The mother's breath caught. She hugged her daughter close, panic rising again. The human raised his hand, a gesture to stay quiet, his eyes focused on the door. The sound grew louder, closer. Torches flickered outside the broken window, voices murmuring. Search everywhere, the human has them. They cannot have escaped. One voice growled. The mother's heart raced. She pressed her forehead against her daughter's, whispering prayers under her breath. But the human stayed calm, his body tense, ready. The steps passed, slowly fading down the street, the torches moving away. The mother exhaled shakily, tears spilling from her eyes. The human finally relaxed, his hand dropping. Not tonight, he said quietly. They didn't find us tonight. The mother wiped her tears quickly, ashamed of her weakness but grateful beyond words. She looked at him in the dim light, her voice trembling. Who are you? He did not answer at first, only stared at the broken floor. Finally, he said softly, just someone who got tired of watching monsters win. Her heart clenched at his words, simple but heavy. She wanted to ask more, but her daughter shifted. In her arms, her small hand resting against her chest, her breathing soft, innocent. The mother kissed her daughter's hair, whispering, Sleep, little one, sleep while you can. And as the human sat in silence, guarding them with eyes that never rested, the mother realized something she had not felt in years. Hope, fragile but alive. Hope that maybe, just maybe, they were not doomed after all. The night stretched on, and though danger still lurked outside in that broken shelter, the three of them shared a moment of safety, a moment that would carry them into whatever came next. The night dragged on inside the broken shelter, silence heavy like a blanket. The little girl slept soundly in her mother's lap, her small chest rising and falling with each soft breath. The mother stroked her daughter's hair gently, but her own eyes refused to close. Her mind refused to rest. Across the room, the human sat against the wall, half in shadow, his eyes open, watching the broken door, his posture calm but ready. Even when he looked still, there was something about him, like a predator waiting in silence. The mother stared at him for a long time, her heart filled with questions. Finally, she spoke, her voice quiet. You should not have saved us. The human's eyes moved to her, steady and sharp. I should not have watched you suffer either, he replied. Her throat tightened. She turned her gaze away. You don't understand, my people, my clan. They are cursed. Her fingers trembled as they brushed her daughter's cheek. This child was never supposed to live. They wanted her gone since the day she was born. The human leaned forward slightly, his brow furrowed. Why? Her lips trembled, her chest heavy with words she had carried too long. Because of me, she whispered. Because of what I was and what I lost. She swallowed hard, her voice cracking as she continued. Once, I was not a slave. I was the daughter of a leader. My father held power in our clan, and my people respected me. But politics are poison, and enemies are everywhere. One night, there was betrayal. My father was killed and I was captured. Her eyes filled with tears, but she forced herself to go on. They wanted me executed, but I was spared. Not out of mercy, but out of cruelty. They said my bloodline was broken, that I would live as a slave to remind everyone of my shame when I gave birth to my daughter. They laughed. They said she would be taken, trained, or destroyed. So I begged. I begged for her life. And the only reason she is 5 years old today is because I gave everything, every piece of myself to protect her. Her voice fell to a whisper, shaking with guilt. But I could not keep her safe forever. When they dragged us to that market, I thought it was the end. I thought I had lost. And then you came." Her eyes lifted to him, full of confusion. "Why, human? Why risk your life for us? You owe me nothing." The human stayed silent for a long time, his jaw tight, his eyes unreadable. Finally, he said, "Because I have seen this before, in other places, in other faces, and I could not stand by again." The mother's eyes narrowed. "Again? You've saved others before?" He looked away, his voice low. "No. I failed them. That is why I cannot fail now." Her breath caught. She wanted to ask more, but his expression told her not to press. His scars were not only on his skin, they were buried deeper, in memories he carried alone. The mother hugged her daughter tighter, tears spilling silently. For years she had carried the weight of shame, the pain of loss, and the fear of her child's future, and now this stranger, this human, was carrying it with her even though he didn't have to. For the first time she felt something unfamiliar, something frightening. Trust. She whispered softly, "If they catch us again, I will give myself. I will trade my life for hers. Promise me you'll take her far away." The human's eyes snapped to hers, sharp and unyielding. "No," he said firmly. "Don't speak like that. I told you before. No one touches her while I breathe, and that includes you giving up." The mother shook her head, her voice breaking. "You don't understand. They will never stop. You cannot fight the whole world." He leaned forward, his voice low, filled with iron. "I don't need to fight the world, only the ones who stand in my way." The mother fell silent, her breath shaky, her heart racing. There was something in his tone, something in his eyes that made her believe him, even though everything in her life told her not to. The little girl stirred in her sleep, her small voice, mumbling a dream. "Mama, protect her." The mother smiled sadly, brushing her child's hair back, then looked at the human again, her voice barely a whisper. "She calls you protector. Do you know what that means?" He tilted his head slightly. "Tell me." Her lips curved into a fragile smile. "It means you are not just a savior, you are a shield. Someone she believes will stand no matter what. She has never called anyone that. Not even me." The human's eyes softened for a moment, though his face stayed calm. He turned his gaze back to the broken door, his voice quiet. "Then I'll make sure she's never wrong." The mother's chest ached, her tears falling again. This time not only from sorrow but from something else. Hope. Outside, the night wind howled, carrying with it the distant sound of horns once more. The hunt was still on. The danger had not ended, but inside that broken shelter something had changed. The mother was no longer alone with her child. She had someone beside her, someone willing to carry her burden, someone who might just give them a chance at life. She closed her eyes, finally her head leaning against the wall, whispering, "Thank you, stranger." But the human did not reply. His eyes were still open, still watching the door, silent and ready, for he knew the worst was yet to come. The morning came heavy with fog. The city streets were quieter than usual, but the silence was not peace. It was tension. The sound of horns had stopped during the night, but every shadow, every whisper in the wind, carried the weight of danger. Inside the shelter, the mother was awake before the first light, holding her daughter close. She could not rest. She kept, listening, waiting, fearing. The human sat in the corner, his back against the wall, his eyes half shut but always alert. Then it happened. The sound of boots, dozens of them, heavy and organized. The mother's blood turned cold. She pressed her daughter's face into her chest, whispering, "Don't make a sound." The human stood, calm but ready, his body stiffening. He had expected this. They had tracked them down. The door burst open with a violent crash, splinters flying across the floor. Armored guards stormed in, their weapons glowing faintly, their faces twisted with anger. Behind them, the auctioneer stepped forward, his cruel smile stretched wide. "I warned you, human. No one defies the market." The mother gasped, clutching her child tighter, her whole body trembling. The little girl whimpered, "Mama." The human stepped in front of them, shielding them with his body, his voice calm but sharp. "This ends now." The auctioneer laughed. "Yes, it does for you. Kill him and bring the girl alive." The guards charged, the ground shaking under their boots. The mother screamed, "No!" But the human was already moving. The first guard swung a heavy blade, but the human ducked low, driving his fist into the alien's stomach. The impact sent him crashing back into two others. The human grabbed the fallen blade before it hit the floor, spinning it in his hand with practiced ease. Another came from the side, spear thrusting toward his ribs. The human twisted, the spear scraping his cloak. He slammed the flat of the stolen blade against the alien's head, dropping him instantly. The mother watched in shock, her heart pounding. She had never seen such speed, such power. He moved like water, flowing from one strike to another, every motion controlled, deadly. The child's eyes widened, whispering, "Again, protector." The auctioneer snarled, "Don't just stand there, kill him." More guards rushed in, 6 at once, their blades flashing. The human blocked one, kicked another, twisted aside as a third slashed, sparks flying when steel met steel. He grabbed one by the wrist, bending it until the bone cracked, then used his body as a shield against the others. The room shook with noise, metal clashing, bodies hitting the walls. The mother crouched low, covering her daughter, her breath short, her eyes wide. Every second she thought he would fall, but he did not. One guard managed to cut across his arm, blood spilling down. The mother cried out, "You're hurt!" But the human didn't even glance at the wound. His face was hard, unbroken, his eyes burning with fire. He struck back harder, faster, his blade slashing clean through another guard's weapon, sending it clattering to the ground. The auctioneer's smile faltered, unease flickering across his face. He had expected the human to fall quickly, to be crushed. Yet here he was, bleeding. Yes, but still standing, still fighting. The guards hesitated, fear creeping into their eyes. They were trained, armed many against one, and still they could not bring him down. The human's voice rang through the chaos, sharp and cold. "You think numbers will save you? You don't understand. Humans don't stop." With one final surge, he drove forward, his blade striking, his fists breaking. The last few guards stumbled back, gasping. Some dropping their weapons, others crawling toward the door. The room fell into silence, only the human's heavy breathing filling the air. He stood in the center, his cloak torn, blood dripping from his arm, but his body straight, his eyes unyielding. The mother stared, tears streaming down her face, her heart racing. She could not believe it. He had faced them all, and he had not fallen. The little girl slipped from her mother's arms, running forward before she could stop her. She hugged the human's leg tightly, her small voice trembling but strong. "Protector." The human looked down at her, his face softening for just a moment, his hand gently resting on her head. The auctioneer, pale now, stepped back, his voice shaking. You're not just a man. What are you?" The human's eyes locked on him, cold and sharp. "I'm the one who said they're mine, and I don't break my word." The auctioneer stumbled, fear twisting his face. He turned and fled, his steps echoing down the street. The remaining guards followed, broken and humiliated. Silence filled the shelter again, but this time it was different. Heavy not with fear, but with awe. The mother's chest heaved as she looked at him. Her tears falling freely, she whispered, Why would you do this for us?" The human wiped the blood from his arm, his voice quiet but steady. "Because no one else would." The mother fell to her knees, clutching her daughter, her tears falling onto the cold floor, her heart torn between gratitude and confusion. The little girl, still clinging to him, whispered again, softer this time, "Protector." And in that broken shelter, surrounded by shattered weapons and the silence of retreat, the bond between human mother and child grew stronger, forged not only by survival, but by the fire of battle. But deep in the shadows, the city was stirring. The fight was not over. The storm was only beginning. The shelter was quiet again, but the silence was not the same. Broken weapons lay scattered across the floor. The air smelled of smoke and blood, The human stood still in the center, his chest rising heavily, his arm bleeding, yet his body unshaken. The mother slowly rose to her feet, her daughter still clinging to her, her knees weak, her heart racing. She looked at the man before her, the stranger who had defied a market, fought an army, and bled for them. She could not find the words. Her daughter broke the silence first, her small voice trembling but full of warmth. "Protector," she whispered again, hugging his leg tightly, refusing to let go. The human looked down at her, his face softening for the first time. He bent slightly, placing a hand gently on her head. "You're safe now," he said quietly. The mother's eyes filled with tears. She took a hesitant step closer, her voice shaking. "By our law, you have claimed us, you saved us. Now we belong to you." The words hung heavy in the air, the little girl's eyes wide with innocence, not fully understanding. But the mother's gaze was serious, steady, even through her tears. The human's jaw tightened, his eyes flicking between them. "I don't want ownership," he said firmly. "I want freedom. For you, for her." But the mother shook her head, her voice trembling. "You don't understand. It is not just about law. It is about survival. If you let us go, they will take us again, they will kill her, but if we belong to you, no one can touch us." Her words cut into the silence like a blade. The truth was painful but clear. The human exhaled slowly, looking at the little girl still holding him, her small face buried against his side. He understood. Maybe he had always understood he had not just saved them from chains, he had tied himself to them, willingly or not. Finally he spoke, his voice low but strong. "Then let it be so. Not as slaves, not as property, but as family." The mother gasped softly, her hand covering her mouth. The word felt strange, impossible, yet beautiful. Family. Something she thought she had lost forever. Her knees gave way and she fell to the floor. Tears streaming down her face, her daughter looked up at the human with wide eyes, then smiled for the first time in weeks, a smile bright and pure. She whispered again, "Protector. Family." The human crouched, meeting the child's gaze, then the mother's, his voice steady. "From now on, no one touches you. No one takes you, not while I stand." The mother's tears fell harder, but this time they were not only from fear, but from relief, from hope, from something she had buried deep inside for too long. For a moment, the broken shelter felt warm, a fragile peace within the storm, but outside the city was stirring. Rumors already spreading like fire, whispers of a human who had defied alien law, who had fought guards and won, who had claimed an alien mother and her child. The auctioneer, humiliated, would not stay silent. The rulers of the market would not forgive. This was only the beginning. The human knew this, his eyes sharp as he looked out the cracked window. "We cannot stay here," he said, his tone firm. "They will come again, stronger this time." The mother nodded, wiping her tears quickly, her hands trembling as she held her daughter close. "Where will we go?" He looked at her, his gaze steady. "Somewhere beyond their reach, somewhere no law of theirs can touch you." The mother's heart beat faster. She had never dreamed of such a thing. Freedom was a word she did not dare hope for, yet this human spoke of it as if it was already real. Her daughter tugged at her sleeve, smiling sleepily. "Mama, we have him now. He will keep us safe." The mother's throat tightened. She kissed her child's forehead, whispering, "Yes, yes, little one." The human stood tall, pulling his cloak back over his shoulders despite the tear in his arm. He did not complain of pain. He did not ask for thanks. He only prepared to move. The mother rose beside him, weak but determined. Her daughter in her arms, together they stepped out into the cold morning air, the city looming around them, dangerous and cruel. But for the first time, she did not feel helpless. She glanced at the human, walking beside her, his steps strong and steady, and whispered, "You are more than a protector. You are a promise." He gave no reply, but his silence spoke louder than words. As the three of them disappeared into the maze of the city, the sun broke faintly through the fog. a small light in the darkness, a light of something new. A mother who had lost everything, a child who had known only fear, and a human who chose to stand against the world. For them, together, they were no longer broken pieces of fate. They were something new, something dangerous to those who ruled with cruelty. They were a bond stronger than chains, stronger than law, a bond that no one in the galaxy could ever expect. And it was only the beginning.